like, it does not need that. I don't.
Amir doesn't need an ego spike.
No, don't let me get my awesome, faithful 2 people. I always have like 2 people join at the beginning, and then it's like a rotation. I do appreciate it though. Anybody, I don't care if it's one person. I just come and learn. We're learning. I don't know. I've never built this app before.
Yeah. Yeah. I always end up with like one person. I feel like there's like these roamers on Twitch
Mm-hmm.
just find you. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing?
Yep.
Do you want me to turn on some music again? The chill hop
Yeah.
going last time? Is it pretty
Yeah.
good?
Otherwise, I have to add another audio stream, which just takes up more bandwidth for me to use a different browser, so they can't, because I want them to be able to hear you, because they can hear you talk in mine. I assume they can see me on yours, maybe.
Yeah.
But they can hear you talk in mine, and but if I leave it, it'll stream my audio through, and then we'll get in trouble, which we don't want.
Right. Well,
Although we may not be big enough to have anybody care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got the chill hop going now.
Yeah.
Okay. Open up ClickUp. Hop over to our bookend space.
Did you update the Google Doc to add to your question structure?
I didn't.
When we got off? No? Okay.
No, as far as I'm aware, I haven't touched it since we got
Okay.
off. So.
I made a conscious decision while I was thinking through a few things, just to make sure I had all my bases covered.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of throwing everything in that user bucket, it does make more sense to have a collection for questions, base questions, have a collection for answers, which tag back to the ID of the question, or the user, however we want to do that. It's not important for this piece. That, in my opinion, just kind of looking through it visually and seeing, because I was doing like a visual check for myself, it's just going to get too cluttered if we don't, and it's going to be hard. If you have a whole year's worth of days, it's going to get messy. And what I would recommend is we consider potentially using that as for custom questions, letting it sit in there for custom questions, because you may not want them every day either, right? We can give that option, right? It's just a little more flexible. Or we have a custom collection bucket. That's not it takes 2 seconds to spin up. I think once I saw what it would look like visually, it made no sense to me anymore. It'll get too unruly, to be honest.
Okay.
I wanted it to be simple and succinct.
The structure then, so you basically took each of the objects inside and split them off into their own collection a little bit. So you got the bookends with questionnaire. That's its
feedback, questions. Feedback is our rating.
Okay.
So this is a question. What's the meaning of life? I created it. But we'll have to adjust this. This is just like a placeholder so I can visualize it. And then here's my response to that question. So I'm tagging question ID to the whatever Mongo makes. It's its own. We have to use _ID. We might as well reuse it because it's in here anyways. So it's a randomly generated number anyways. So we're good there. And then I tag the feedback back to the question ID. We timestamp. I gotta think through this too, but just to give you like a visual representation, like each one of these is these some things are gonna need this. That makes sense. Some things we're gonna want to key off of that. And then this little bugger is really nice to use for like matching up our questions, responses, and feedback. It's just a simple visual way I like to see it. This I obviously have to change for modern authentication, but that's easy too.
Okay. So what is feedback then? What's the difference between feedback and responses?
So a question is a question. This is just a question. There's no answer in here. So this is my start of my day. My book. It's like a book beginning. my book beginning, I don't know what term we were using for the start, but like I consider like the book end is when we're closing it, the chapter for the next day.
Book start. Let's just
book start. So the questions are book starts.
Okay.
The responses are the book ends. The feedback is optional. If you want to rate anything, we can add this as an optional field. And so by doing it that way, if we wanted to be able to rate custom stuff, we could reuse the same feedback table or feedback collection and kind of simplify our logic a little bit. So when you're polling, if they have a custom question, they will have custom feedback potentially, right? And so since we're just tagging off the question ID, we'll still be able to tag off that unique ID and be able to pull this record out if it exists. So, and that's something we'll have to think through. I don't think that's something we have to solve today. It's going to have to be a little bit of trial and error. I'm not sure the best way yet to do that. We've only talked about it conceptually, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure right now that we need the feedback. So from my perspective, I don't think that, because both the book start and the book end are going to have questions and answers.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Which we have. Yep.
So when you say that questions is your book start and responses is your book end, like I need to be able to have responses tied to the questions that I ask at the beginning and at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have to expand our question to include the book beginning piece of it. Makes sense. So this would almost say book start, and this would almost be book end, essentially.
So I guess I wouldn't classify them as that, because
no.
From my perspective, like the book start is a list of questions. It's its own questionnaire with its own set of responses that the user provides that I give.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The book end is another set of questions, completely different set of questions. So let's just go through.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha.
Let me show you my daily bookend process, and let's just see how we can fit it in here.
Do you want to trample what I'm sharing?
I mean, maybe hide some stuff.
I usually think about that after I start sharing, and then I'm like, oops, I gotta go change something now.
I've done this enough that I'm like, I've made enough mistakes. I don't want to share anyone's private information. So, okay, so I mean, this is effectively the book start. Right? Daily adventure with bookends. This is my note. I copy this every single day, and in the morning, I fill out this questionnaire. It's like, who am I fighting for today? Right? This morning I filled out, it's like, I'm fighting for Adelaide. I'm fighting for my daughter. So that's why I'm here. I want to make the money. I want to chase my dreams. I want to show her that is possible. So that's what I'm fighting for today. So I fill out this questionnaire every day. So in your data structure, Amir, you had questions and responses. So would I be able to group all of these questions before my book end here? This is another set of questions. Everything beneath this book end is a completely different set of questions. And I want to ask all of these highlighted now, at the beginning of the day. And I want just these ones. I don't care about even seeing the next set because I haven't, it's not the book end yet, just a book start. So in the data structure that you got there with questions and responses, how would I do this?
What are you fighting for today? And you want each question to have a different ID, right?
Yes.
So I still think that the process of creating our list of questions, our bucket of questions makes sense then. Each one will have 1 through whatever ID, whatever number we need so that we can order them, right? We want them in an ordered list. All right. So initially, I think this will work the way it is. I just think we need to make sure. I don't think. I know we need to make sure that. So our questions need to be our questions, and then let's give them an ID. So like, I don't need this created by user ID, but for a second, let's just say ID, right? Int, an integer, right? So question 1 will be an integer, and then we have, let's just say we have 10 questions. So we'll have 1 through 10, essentially. And then we know those are our book starts, right? We know that's an array of properties that needs to live together, or objects, whatever we want to classify it. And then we'll do our bookend against that list, essentially. I think I just need to tag, as I present you your list of questions every day, your new list of questions, I just need to make sure that I'm pulling that list and I'm providing it to you in a structure like you had shown me. And I think that this accomplishes it. I just have to create all my default. I'm gonna go back to saying, I think it makes sense to create a collection that's just our questions. And maybe that's what this becomes. That's just our questions. And then we have a collection that stores the answer to all those questions per user. And then we have something that looks up, all right, so today's 8:10. Simple enough, right? It's 8:10. So I'm going to present this question and this answer because it's 8:10. I think that would connect it pretty well without being too overly cumbersome for either of us. Because you would just get the data as you would expect, because you're just going to get the data then as, let's say, as an array, right? Or a list, essentially. And if you get your 10 questions, that should be all you need, right? Because you're going to answer those, and I'm going to store the answer. And then at the end of the day, we're going to retrieve that, or whenever they do it, we're going to retrieve that key off of today's values, and then be able to update that and rank them or score them if we want to, right? Am I explaining it back to you correctly?
And let's see. Okay. So from my perspective, from the app's perspective, I would love to be able to keep track of, or just be able to query, I should say, not just the questions for the day, but really, so when I think of a bookend, like I think of it as a self-contained unit. And any questions, responses that I have should be linked directly back to that unit, to that bookend, that whole, like the whole, right? So if I have a book start, I filled out my book start. All of the responses, I guess, would be linked to both the question that was answered, along with the bookend that is part of. Because the bookend isn't necessarily always going to be like a frame of time. It's not just going to be a date. It could be an activity, and I could participate in 4, 5, 50 activities throughout the day that all require a bookend, perhaps even the same bookend. So let's say, like, for example, every single sales call I do, if I want to prep myself for the sales call, there's a specific process that I follow. If I want to review myself after the sales call, there's a process I want to follow. I'm going to iterate on that to improve it over time. But hopefully I'm doing more than just one sales call a day. Doing 50, 100, 200 if you're rushing into it. And, I mean, you want to go brain dead at the end of the day, but so that's the idea that I have. So the thing you said about the date kind of throws up a red flag for me. I don't want any of our bookends or my querying of data to be reliant on a date unless I'm trying to filter out previous bookends based on a date.
Well, they're all unique, so I think that makes what you want anyways. I'm saying if we put a date in there, I guess maybe there's another way to do it, right? But if you put a date in there, let's say I want to go back 3 weeks from now and look at my responses for some reason and compare them to today, I'd be able to go key off of that date field, for example.
I definitely want a timestamp. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
So maybe
Okay.
add that somewhere in here. But I guess like looking at the data structure that you had with the questions and responses, it's like there's a couple of key pieces that are missing from the data structure we decided on last week.
Well, it's because I haven't coded it. Okay. I wanted to just have a starting place to make sure I was connecting to Mongo and my buckets were all working. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't done any of that. Oh, I know I maybe didn't make that clear enough. Yeah.
So I guess so. Responses is basically the answer, and you ripped it out into its own collection, and you link it back to the question that it was tied to.
Yep.
I would say as well, maybe link it back to the bookend, not just the question, but the actual, again, because each question should be part of the unit. And so if I want to look up all of my past bookends as groups, I can do that. So I would say potentially linking it to both the question that was answered and the bookend itself, like that was the group. What's a good definition for that? Because I'm not giving it good words right now. Like bookend the data structure, but then we also have, I guess you called it just responses. And I feel like responses should have all of its questions bundled up in each record.
Here, like we can do something like this. I think this is more self-contained and probably a split between what you and I were thinking originally anyways. What's the meaning of planes? Let's just say we have 4 questions because I have to like typing this out all day.
I can't see your screen, by the way, if you want to.
Oh, I stopped sharing. That's why. Let's see. Share screen. Are we able to both share at the same time, or does it overwrite?
We can both share. I get to turn the screen and showing on my stream, but.
All right, so let's say, and I'm going to add a timestamp to this, right? I'm going to add a timestamp to this. Just that's easy too. I just do that in my model. Let's just assume that it's there for now, right? So this is our book start. We have four questions in our book start today. It's just to make it easy. It belongs to this user, right? So maybe it's like created by user ID is fine for now. It's just demonstration purposes. So we drop this in here. So you have these questions, right? And so I guess the better question is, would you rather me now add field after question, like answer 1? Would you like something like that? Unable to update, no changes have been made. Oh, it's because I didn't actually put answer 1 in there. So I can either do this, and then it's contained within this one. So this is now today's bookend. It'll be timestamped. This is today's bookend. It can have our questions and answers all in one place. Or I can go to responses, and this question ID is that object ID and the other field. And then we could just tie it clean to our question, like to our book start. So our bookend can have our tag to our book start. You know what are you following me on that? Like we could do it either way. It's just how do you visually like seeing it? Either one should be fine to do.
Let's see. Yeah, so from my perspective, I would actually say every single time someone creates a response of any kind, we should store the entire data structure of the bookend at the time of the response's creation. Which is why I really loved the structure that we had in just this Google Doc, because we're basically just copying the entire bookend structure into the response format. And that way, at the app level, I don't have to worry about, like, let's say, if we have the responses and they're just linking back to a question, like let's say someone deleted the question from the bookend. it's like I can't load that bookend or that response anymore because, or at least when I do load it, I have to say this question no longer exists. I don't know what the answer was for. And that feels a little bit annoying. There might be a really intelligent way to solve this with like versioning. Every time you make a bookend, like if every time you edit the bookend, you create a new version. So the old one and the new one. And the questions also include the version of that bookend that you're pointing at. That's an idea. It's a thought. But I need to have some way of knowing then like what question the version is pointing at. You'd need to create something so that when I do make edits, that a new version is spawned off. So that instead of like storing raw data, we just store edits, events.
Yeah, I'll just make it this, and then we'll see how it works. That's fine. I can build the exact structure we have and cut out these other collections. It's not a problem.
Okay. Won't be too messy.
I think it'll be a little messy. I think if you don't separate some of these things out, this is going to get very large. I don't think size-wise, but I think it's going to get a little unruly. But you might. I don't think it's a problem, and this is why it's so cool to use Mongo. Is we could do it this way, or we could do it the other way, and it's not that hard to switch. And for you on the front end, you're not going to see it any different. I'm presenting you this data the way you want it anyways, right? So how this comes out will get presented to you in the format you expect anyways. So I think we build it this way because it's easier to see anyways. And then if we don't like it, it won't take me much effort. Honest to God, it will not take me much effort. Just switch it the other way. I've done this a million times. It's not even that hard. It's not an issue of linking tables together. It's literally just changing a couple of my query fields, merging data or moving data. And Mongo does a fantastic job of linkage between tables or between collections. So let's try this because it's easier. And I'm all good with let's just make it work, and then let's see how it performs. I haven't done something with this structure before, right? This exact structure. I don't usually have this many layers where I have to fill out Q&A stuff, right? I just haven't done that. So let's try. I say we try it and see how it works.
Yeah.
I think it'll work either way, personally. As I see it, and as I've kind of played around with Mongo, I think it'll work either way. But the one nice thing about Mongo is if you view this like a form, see, this is perfect. View this record as if you were using like a type form that spits out a Word file with all your answers in it. That's all this is a self-contained document that you can now reference as a front end on the front end, however you want it. Just like if you were going to pull in a form from SQL, right? You still need that data somehow, and then you got to put it all together. I'm just literally giving you a document. Here's today's bookend, book start, everything that's included for today or tomorrow or next week or a month's worth of data, right? Linked together. You consume it. We're done. I think this will work. I have no problem thinking through and structuring this. That's not a problem.
Okay, I'd say let's take a second and answer these questions for ourselves.
Okay.
It's like, what is our intention for the next hour? What do we want to accomplish? And I'm just going to tack it down to the bottom here.
I would like to be able to have the model built for our first day of Bookends. That would be my goal, is that I have a model at least written down in Python that we can next time test against.
For me, it's like in the next, I guess now it's like 35-ish minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I would say take like 3 minutes and find the queries that I can make to pull the information that I need. And maybe build an API that queries that info, plus rough UI that displays a bookend to the user. I might be biting off a lot, but I feel like with UI, I should be able to AI. I should be able to do both of these. Okay, so from my perspective, I just have, at the moment, I just need one API query. I just need to be able to pull all the bookends that are available to the user. So it just looks like this.
This right here gets everything from the user.
Yeah.
So you provide. So I have an endpoint built for you for this purpose.
Okay.
App.get username. All right. So app.get, and then it would be, that's your questions, responses. Let's see what this gives us. Need to start it up. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think
No, you're good.
I already have an endpoint that probably, all right, so that returns my user. I have a cheat sheet that I built in Notes. Let's see, it's a get request.
You want to throw that cheat sheet in ClickUp?
Yeah, I could throw it in here.
You too? Yeah, so it's like, I guess, whatever you want to call the endpoint, for me, as long as it gives me back this data here. I don't know if you can see my screen or not, but as long as it gives me back this.
So we would need to return. That makes sense. So it'll be this endpoint, and the ID will be the bookend for today, which I'm trying to think of how you would derive that.
When you say for today, are you creating a new bookend every single day?
Yeah. You want me to just make one big bookend? Like,
yeah, so I would say we don't make a new bookend every day. We just have the bookend structure with the questionnaires, questions, etc. And when I come in and I say start, like I tap on that data structure, like on the UI, just a little banner, I guess, that represents that bookend. Then on my local device, it'll create the new day, and I can start filling it out, and then I'll push that up, right? So that's when that'll fill in the responses collection that you're creating. So I wouldn't expect the backend to create a new one every single day. That's a purely user input action. Shouldn't be automated.
It wouldn't be automated. It would be when they log in and start today. You're right. It would. So I'll have to go back. I'll go back and look at your data structures that might explain it. So let's say this is, in my mind, I was viewing this as today's bookend, right? And then tomorrow when I log in, it will create a new ID for me for tomorrow's bookend. Are you saying you want it that way, or you want today's, tomorrow's, next week's, 3 weeks from now, all in this one object ID that you can pull?
Every day will be its own object.
Oh, that's okay. We're good then.
Yeah.
Okay. No, then we're talking the same thing. We're just saying it differently.
Okay.
So, like today's object ID is.
See, I guess I just wouldn't expect it to pull. I guess it would pull today's object ID if it's like the book end, not the book start. We have such funny vocab.
Well, you're going to do a post request first. So you're going to do this first, right here. This is going to create this is going to create the structure that you and I just agreed on. Is we're going to post first.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be able to get that data this way. So I need a put request in here too, so they can actually obviously change stuff. But essentially, this is what you're looking for right here. This right here will generate today's, whatever today is going to be for that person. Tomorrow could be different. We may change it tomorrow, right? But today still works, right? As we kind of talked about, they could have custom stuff. So to me, this endpoint questions, and we can rename it. That's obviously not a big deal. This is the start of this is your book start. And your book end, right? Truthfully, it contains everything you need to close out a single day's worth of journaling yourself. And so if you want to go pull today's tomorrow, you would reference it by the ID that we just created. Does that track?
I guess so. I just don't get why it's called questions. Why, so from my perspective, if I'm posting the questions, I'm making a new set of questions to ask myself. But that's not entirely true.
Would that be more sense? Bookends. We just call it that instead of questions.
I would just call it responses. So from my perspective, again, bookends is not something that I'm editing that often. I would expect to query that more often than not. And from right now, I would only expect to query it. I'm not expecting that I'm pushing any data to the Bookends collection. The Bookends collection just has all of my questionnaires, my questions. That's it. It's got that data in it that I can pull down and then display to the user. The responses is where I push up my answers. That's the loop I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, though, why am I pushing data to questions? What data am I pushing to questions?
You're not. It's the questions will be our question database, essentially our question table for all intents and purposes that the user will pull, and then the responses will contain the structure that you would expect. I think that should wrap up what we're. Yeah, because we have a table set aside for all the questions that are going to get pulled in. We're going to track all those in responses. It's like how I have it. It's just expanding on it now.
Okay, so
confused where we're confused.
Yeah.
I don't think we're confused. I think we're both saying the same thing.
Okay, so can you hop into the Google Doc, and when I post the questions, write out step by step exactly what is happening on, let's start at the beginning. Okay, so step one, I need to pull all of the users' bookends that they have access to. That's my step one from the app perspective.
Yep.
How do I?
Yeah, so
what endpoint do I query that will get me the data structure that we listed out in the Google Doc on Tuesday?
You are going to query to get questions. And then you're going to enter all questions. And then we're going to return get all. So we're going to get all of your bookends. All right, hold on. We're going to get all your bookends, and we're going to do it by username string. So you're going to send, why is this not happening? You're going to send our API /questions. you're going to provide the username,
Mhm.
and it's going to supply you a list of all their bookends. It should be pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can reuse questions. And then if you want to tag a specific bookend, we already have an endpoint for that. We'll tag the ID for tomorrow, or you know what I mean, like yesterday or today or whatever we want, because we'll need that for historical anyways. So I have a different analytics thing for historical, but essentially, does that make sense? Like, this is your pulls them all, and then if you want to drill down into one specifically, you can use this to drill down if you really wanted to. We don't need it because you already have the data. I like to keep it clean and just tag what we need. So I like to have the option.
And in the long run, like for example, if they will only want to query a specific set, like I can save all the IDs. So
yeah, like last 30 days, we could add, for example, if we could make it dynamic where they could just say, I want to see the last 60 days of my bookends and pick one. You know what I mean? We can make it dynamic like that.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. Now, so let's say I've received this data structure. I'm able to display the first questionnaire to the user. They go through and they answer all of the questions. So I push up that first set of responses to like, so am I still storing the answer inside with the question itself?
All in the way you just explained, you want the questions separate so that they, like a collection table, and then we'll push the answer and we'll just tag the question ID. So instead of restoring the question, let's just store the reference to the question so they can go back and look it up.
Okay. So the caveat there is that we cannot delete questions if that's the case.
We have default questions that cannot be deleted.
Okay. Right. And in the future, when they're able to actually create their own bookend, we're going to have to do the versioning.
We're going to do something different for that. We're going to build that response into their user profile. So if they have a question and answer they want, I think it makes sense to either build it into here or build a separate table that we merge. So when you get that data, it's merged for you and you don't have to do anything with it. It's more of a chicken and egg kind of thing. We can just merge the data before it hits your front end. So for you don't have to change anything. I'll handle it on the back end. So if they have custom questions that they want to add, I will make sure that that's presented back to the front end because I'll run my own query before it hits the front end. Does that make sense? Or do you not like it that way? Because we can have the front end do it too. That's not a problem.
Well, I mean, as long as I'm getting the information that I need, okay. From my perspective, it's just if we allow them to delete anything, then the data will get corrupted and messed up, and it won't matter what you do. So I'm assuming there's some kind of versioning technique that would allow it. So like, let's say that a year ago, the bookend structure that I used is completely different than the one that I use now. But I should still be able to go back and view my bookends, my answers from a year ago, as they were, not as they are now.
We're going to have, you're right, we're going to have some type of versioning for that. Absolutely. So like V1, now V2, when we make a change, V3, so we know what to look for. I got you now. Yeah, I can see that being a problem down the road.
Yeah. So I've dealt with this before.
yeah, I know. I'm seeing it as we kind of flow through it, making a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But that's why, like I said, that's why we're talking this through, and I just wanted some examples that I could start from. So I've got that, and I can start hammering away at getting the questions set. And did you have are those questions in the ClickUp?
I can throw my questions in there.
Yeah, let me get ClickUp on the computer then. Then I'll build those out right now. Questions, so it's not going to have a created by. It's going to be, do you want a question one or do you just want an ID for each question? They can be UUIDs or just numbers that iterate. Or the name with the question. I don't care.
Some way to order them. I mean, what information? Hold on. It's like we have the UUID for the question. Again, like when I query the questions, I'm expecting back. Can you see my screen right now? Let me put this in ClickUp.
No, I can't.
Okay. This in ClickUp. Let me do it. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, so I put the data structure for bookends.
Looking for it. Why don't I see it?
On the left side, can you see the example questions in our space?
There it is. I was just drilling down. All right, I see it. All right, I'll get those.
Yeah.
I'll get that modeled right now.
Yeah.
I already have an ID. So ID is
Have you already pushed your code up into GitHub?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't think this version of it's in there, but I can push it right now if you want.
That's okay. I always have to look up how to make a new Flutter project.
Class question create, question base. So then we need base model, come on. feel like I started doing this and I stopped. List optional. You need. All right. Question base. We need a question type, right? Class question type, and it's type question B. No, we don't have a checkbox question, do we? Probably not.
I had yes and no, which is
Well, it could be in our list, right? Doesn't mean we have to use it, I guess.
just calling it checkbox works.
And multiple choice, short answer. I don't know. Multiple choice. It's good for now. So then I need a class for class question. That's where it's base model. What I need question order, right? It's questionnaire order. I'm just going through your list. Let's see if I can map this all out real quick. Order. Question ID is based on UID 4. I find myself talking because otherwise nobody can hear me talking.
Yeah, I'm not talking over you.
Oh, you're fine. I'm just thinking. I think this is kind of like puts together what you wanted. A few more things. I need a model for it. So I have a model down here. Last question. I love these pedantic models. They blow Java. This blows Java out of the way, in my opinion. I love Java, so it's not like I don't. But it makes me want to switch all my stuff over.
What do they do exactly?
These models, you build them, and then that's it.
Ooh,
And
pedantic.
then,
Okay,
yeah, I love it.
remember.
I love it. I love it.
It's super nice to have typed objects.
And it just knows, like, you can just see it, just like it knows what's supposed to be in here.
Yeah.
This is where this confuses me a little bit, though. Still, list. Okay, yeah, I think that's. I don't know if I need none. No, that's fine. I'll leave it for now. And then anybody who's listening, like, you build your model, you build an endpoint, and then you go to AI and you say, make me a curl command to test this. And then like 2 seconds later, you're testing your model. It's so, you just can't even, I don't care how good you are, you're not going to beat that. In my opinion. See, it just knows what to put in there because it's following above. All right, question create. this is our, if we want to show them the questionnaire or a question, we can make it public.
Yes.
So this, our model will handle it too.
Yeah, I feel like our model that we built out on Tuesday is pretty robust. And I would say it's just brute force.
Yeah.
Just make it as it is, as we had it described. Even if it is a bit messy for now, if we feel the need to split things out, I mean, everything has an ID. We can map things between collections as necessary.
I'm gonna look at typeform types again real quick. Short, long. Do we want a yes, no?
That's just a checkbox, right?
Yeah. To me, it's, yeah, check it on our own. Yeah, I think that's it. These are the common, yeah, so, yeah, these are all the common ones. According to typeform. Question. Did I miss anything? I'm just looking something up right now. It's the one drawback of going between things you know really well and not knowing what command you need. But that's okay. This is
All right, I've got my models in place.
You're ahead of me. That's all right. Oh, I can kind of see. I can see what you're doing.
With the data structure?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Heck yeah.
Bro.
That's good. If you can see it, we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Yeah. All right, I gotta think through. I got 3 minutes. I can do this. I had a doubt. Yeah. See, it knows what I need. It's so funny. Get all list, but it's actually questionnaire. List. I think it's optional. I love IDEs. They're so smart now. They're just getting smarter, and it knows. But it's still giving me this weird, like, format. I'm kind of curious why it keeps doing this to me. Questionnaire. Question. I call it questions. Find it. You don't want it back. Yep. Questionnaire coding results. Solution update 1.
Did we decide we were going to have a response?
A what?
A response.
You're gonna hit this. It's gonna find everything and return it as an object to you. And then this is. You mean like a response, like what I send back to you, or like a 200, a 500? What do you mean by response?
Right. So when I say response, I mean I query your backend for bookends. List of bookends. It gets me back those data structures. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's any responses, like anything that I, the user, have written in them. A response is me filling out a bookend. So
Mhm.
my answers to each of the questions in the bookend.
I'm building our questionnaires. The response is what you're looking for. You'll get that out of here.
Yeah.
I'm building your structure right now, and then we'll store the response per question in the questionnaire. So this will be like this is really cool because this will be easy for us to work with down the road if we needed to change things, and um, obviously that could happen, right? You never know if you want to change the default questions. Um, and this will be what stores our list of default questions. So we'll just push it one time, and then yeah, everything you're gonna want is gonna be. I gotta fill this out. I just hadn't got through this yet. I'm just slow.
Okay, so the responses from the user will be in a separate collection.
Yeah, we sort of. So again, we're gonna store our questionnaire and questions, just like your structure is.
Yep.
So that we don't have to create this every single day, because that's gonna get messy. And then we're gonna build this what structure you need in here to track the user's responses, and we're gonna tag like this, whatever this UUID is, we're gonna tag the response vector responses, so you'll get both in one request.
Right.
So you'll get like a question and an answer in the order you're expecting. Should be pretty, although you could sort the order too. But yeah, you'll get it. You'll get both things at once, so it should be pretty simple to work with. Did you mimic it with JSON data?
Mimic the JSON data that's here
Mhm.
in the ClickUp. Yes.
Yeah, to test. Yeah, to test it. Did it work?
Oh, I haven't queried it yet. No.
Okay. I think collection. That should be it. All right, that should be it for this piece of it.
So Flutter actually has this really annoying thing where I can't make HTTP requests in like a test. They're like, you need to mock this. I'm like, what if I don't want it? Well, we reached the end of our hour.
All right.
Then some.
I've almost got the endpoint to build our list of questions, and then I'll build our list of responses. I'll probably just stick around for a few minutes and finish that up and test it.
Yeah. So I suppose like just doing a quick review of our work. I would say I feel like to improve us working together, whenever we're talking about something, let's just make a data structure for it.
Okay. Yeah.
Like if we're ever saying anything, it's like, okay, you're saying questions. What is questions? Show me the JSON. And then we can just start to fill out, like, create a definition for each of the words that we use, trying to just be kind of rigorous about how we use them, so we don't talk back like through each other. Because I mean, I came into this conversation assuming that the structure, like, I guess I was looking at the collections you were doing, and I was like, I don't see how they match the structure that we decided on last week at all. So I didn't really see like questions and responses and what you said, like book start and then your bookend, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I'm trying to be rigorous about the words we use and make it as obvious as possible what information is associated with each of those words.
Makes sense.
Help us move faster, I think.
And I'll try not to show you examples next time that throw you off, because they weren't meant to be complete. They were just buckets for me to test where I was going to put stuff. I tried not to get too far ahead of myself, but I think we probably spent 20 minutes talking about the same thing, unfortunately. But we'll get better at it.
Yeah, the first 25, I'd even say 40 minutes was just kind of like, what were you saying about the data there? What? So yeah, just being a bit more rigorous about the words we describe things. So I'm actually even going to make a new document and ClickUp that's literally just going to be called vocabulary.
Okay.
And we can write out, like, for example, what a bookend questionnaire. Might need to change, like, bookend, like we said, bookend, book start. So maybe just calling those the questionnaires and calling it like questionnaire 1, questionnaire 2, something like that.
Makes sense. Okay with that.
Yeah, that's all for me. Good luck, man.
All right, I'll build this batch based on your questions, and we should be able to all update it so you can see it in GitHub.
Perfect.
All righty.
I've got the models put together in Flutter,
and
then I started working on the backend service. Hopefully, I can make some queries in a minimal app next week on Tuesday.
Yep, should be able to. Alrighty. Well, thank you. Yep, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday. Well, probably before then, but I'll talk to you on here on Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right.
See you guys.
See you, everyone.